Hi, I'm Dylan.
Hi, I'm Martin.
Hi, I'm Nathaniel.
Hi, I'm Neil, and this is Youth on Subjects of the World.
Okay, so you guys are saying we're going to talk about transgenderism and gun control a little bit more since me and Neil weren't
Well,
on
I think it's more gender in general and gender identity.
Yeah,
gender
like-
identity.
We can move in that to whenever we want to. We have 2 hours.
yeah. Well, actually, I have to be off at 5:30, but you guys
Okay.
can continue the conversation. So yeah, last week we do it every other week. So I'm just gonna say last week. Last week we talked about gun control and a little bit about antidepressants and a little bit about a cancer cure that is being come up with, and then probably some other random stuff that I can't remember right now. But yeah, we were not, unfortunately, Dylan and Neil were not on last week.
I
And
was just recovering from getting back from India with all the horrible, disgusting jet lag.
yeah, so
And I couldn't be on.
you were at a friend's house, I thought.
I was. That's what I was doing.
So we,
Confirming a story like it's fake.
what?
I was just a side, and I was just saying, Dylan, he's like, oh yeah, I was at a friend's house. That's what was happening.
No, I was at Luke's house, and then we went and we made scallion pancakes.
Oh, sweet.
You actually did tell me about that.
Okay. Anyways, so as you know, if you've watched this show before, Dylan and Neil usually have strong opinions on things like this. So
What? No.
I think they probably want to talk about that. I mean, no, I think they're very passive. They don't think about things too much. They're pretty laid back. But
We are anti-bullying, safe space-loving people who don't want anyone to be hurt in any way, and we value everyone's opinion.
Oh,
Yeah.
hold on. Oh, so at my school, we just now this was created this year. We now have a safe space at my school, so it's pretty. Yep.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for your loss.
But,
what does that even mean?
what conclusion did you guys, or what were you talking about gun control last week?
It doesn't work.
I agree with that.
Basically, that was the overall message. We went into a way more detail. Like, we pretty much spent like an hour and a half talking about that and then like 20 minutes about the other stuff. But super detailed discussion about it. Basically that there's no real way you can regulate guns in America. It's not super easy. I mean, it's not super hard to get access to things illegally, as seen by our massive drug problem. And also, one of the state with the highest amount of gun deaths is Chicago, which has the most strict gun laws. Yeah. So that's just literal proof.
It has nothing to do with the amount of gun restrictions or bans or whatever you want to call it. It just has to do with poverty. The amount of impoverished. Like if you look at crime rates and poverty, they almost, there's a word for it. They're very close.
And we also talked a lot about how one of the biggest problems with school shootings in particular, we didn't talk a lot about like terrorist attacks and mass shootings that are outside of a school situation because it was like a couple days after that had happened. So that was what all of us were talking about at the time. We were kind of talking about how maybe the problem isn't the guns. Maybe the problem is the fact that we don't raise our children in a way that would nurture them. Like, nurtured, loved people won't go and kill all of the people around them. But they're forced into a situation and into a system that is like it's designed to gear people to be perfect all the time and to not question authority, and literally puts a bunch of children, very impressionable children, into a place where they automatically, by human nature, form cliques. And when you form cliques, you automatically exclude people. And when you exclude people, you hurt people.
I think there was a school in England that banned best friends.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. And
I was like,
one of those clickbait videos, just like, ooh, school best friends banned in this school. Watch now.
But like, I think when you create a system like that and a society like that, there's no way. Like, what do you expect is going to happen? Or obviously, people are going to have issues, and not to mention, when we talk about antidepressants, if you put people on medication that alters the way their brain works, how do you expect they're going to act if they ever are off them or even when they're on them? Like, I'm pretty sure the statistic is like 60% of the times antidepressants don't work.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
I could be completely wrong on that. I mean, as everyone knows, like 20%, no, like 80% of randomly spouted statistics are actually untrue.
Maybe that one is untrue.
That is untrue. That's the point of the joke.
I understand.
So, yeah, we talked about that, and then we went on that for a while, and then we went a lot more into like the environmental aspects, like fathers and mother relationship and how that can impact, and like divorces can also impact, like just all of the various things not related to actual guns that go into things like that happening.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Ah!
All my electronics hate me.
Oh.
Is that new?
I mean, actually, they hate this show, apparently. They cannot stand this show.
Yeah, I'd like it to go on record that Neil loses his phone constantly. And
It's
okay.
the FBI.
Okay. No, I would
The
like to
FBI.
use this
Wait,
phone.
no. It's the FBI getting mad at us for talking.
I know. And this phone, while plugged in, died. And you know why? Because it doesn't like the power socket on the top. It only likes the power socket on the bottom. I don't know why, but it's a little bitch. And it only likes the power socket on the bottom for no reason whatsoever. And it's extremely irritating. And yes, I did plug it in. I plugged it in.
Okay. Wait. Real quick. Remember like the swear warning we have now because Nathaniel's on speaker and I'm pretty sure his mom runs a daycare.
Yeah.
His mom runs a daycare like right next to him. So we should.
Yeah, I'm in my office, but I'm either all the kids are outside or in the basement. So you're pretty safe.
Just like
I will let you swear, but only if you're on wild rants.
That was a wild rant right there.
Okay. Yeah. So Neil's current situation at that moment, like if that happens, then
judge ruling.
I'll just be like, eh.
I just like to say, like, I hate it because my mom is quite liberal, and I wouldn't say I'm not a liberal and I'm not a Republican, but it's quite funny because she and a lot of other liberals just say they want common sense gun laws, but then don't say what common sense gun laws are.
Common sense gun law is a term I keep getting thrown in my face.
What the hell does that mean?
What is I don't understand. Just because you say the word common sense doesn't make common sense appear out of nowhere. Like saying random words without details does not make details fill in.
I honestly, this is one of the things that irritates me the most. It is the whole thing that you're talking about. Common sense gun laws, just common sense gun laws, common sense gun laws. It just gives me a huge headache because I just think to myself, why?
Yeah.
Well, what common sense?
Common sense is you don't kill people. Like there's no killing is illegal. Suicide is illegal. Like that doesn't stop anyone from doing it. Like that still happens. Like
I can spell out common sense gun laws, and I'm not asking for common sense gun laws.
Yeah.
Common sense gun laws. And I think it's in 31 states. You actually don't need a background check to actually purchase a gun.
Yeah.
So that's stupid. That should make common sense. I think that you should have to go through it like the DMV. You should go through you have to go through a test to own a gun. We don't have that. We should have that.
Yeah.
That's common sense. I'm literally, for most liberals, I'm in the middle, but most liberals see me as on the right side of the issue. But the thing is, if I really am on the right side of the issue, I can spell out your arguments better than you can.
Yeah, well, that also comes from the fact that, Neil, you like to argue, and you don't need to agree with the points to understand them.
I like to,
Like, basically, I am definitely not liberal. I think if I were to go off of my views, I fall more under libertarian than anything else. But that also varies. I don't agree with everything libertarians agree with. Libertarians don't agree with everything libertarians agree with. Like, so
yeah, libertarianism is very wide open, so you can't just put it under one category.
Yeah. So my views also change a lot because I don't just like I don't try and put myself into a box and then say, oh well, I won't do that because I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican or I'm a I try my best to keep my view changing. And it definitely has been changing in the last 5 years because, I mean, liberalism and like social justice and things like loosely tied with like the far left have become way more common in light of like computers and internet becoming more common, and that gives people who wouldn't have a voice, and that's a good thing. But now, like, what I would have used to associate myself with, which would be like that sort of like left of it, which is what I used to associate with, I don't really associate with it because I've kind of realized that a lot of the things that they want sound good, but they don't work. They don't make sense, is I guess what I'm trying to say. And when you have something like the internet, you don't have to make sense to get your point to a million people.
Yeah.
And that works on literally all sides of the playing field. Like, anyone can say anything and have a million people believing them without having any proof or facts behind it.
Flat earthers.
Excuse me, the earth is flat like pizza.
I mean, they have proof. I mean, like, we would just like fall off if we
Thank you.
yeah.
I mean, if I'm like, south is basically just down. Like, what do people think the South Pole is? You just go to the South Pole and you just fall off the world.
Exactly.
It's
Like,
so stupid. I mean, according to them, we're on the side of the world. How does that whole thing work? I mean, the only place we could be standing up is the North Pole.
logic.
It just makes no sense.
NASA faked the moon landing. What is it? Stanley Kubrick directed it or something?
Yeah, people think Stanley Kubrick directed it because in The Shining, the main kid wears a shirt that has a spaceship on it.
Oh my god. So people actually did some calculations, and it turns out it would have been more expensive to fake the moon landing than actually go to the moon at
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And the technology didn't exist back then
Yeah.
to even simulate the lighting.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of sad? The technology exists to actually go to another celestial body in space, but not to fake doing that.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad.
Well, not really.
Is it?
It's hard to fake killing someone. It's pretty easy to kill someone.
Yes.
Pretty true.
Faking something a lot of times I think can be harder than actually doing it. Fake crying, fake laughing. I mean, actors get praised for a reason. What they're doing is difficult. It's not easy to put yourself in another person's body.
Yeah.
Wait. Dylan.
That's what she said.
That's what she said.
Welcome to Youth on Subjects of the World.
We're gonna inherit the earth.
Okay. I didn't hear any of that because I was talking to my mom, so.
You were saying you were saying that it's not easy
Oh.
to put yourself.
Oh, dude. That is the absolute joke ever.
It's been so long since That's What She Said joke. I've heard one. Yeah.
Yeah, they died out for a reason.
They're really great.
That's like 14-year-old on the internet in his mom's basement joke.
That's literally what I do, Martin. That's literally what I do every single day. I don't think you understand that. I was 14 like 2 months ago, and that's literally what I would do. So you literally just described me.
Make jokes in your mom's basement.
Yes, that's literally what I do. I'd call Dylan, and we'd still make that, and we would make That's What She Said jokes when someone would say something even vaguely, suggestive. I'll use another word, but there are children in Nathaniel's presence.
That's why you always have to say,
okay.
I've learned to never say the word hard and just say difficult.
Hard. Why? Oh, yeah.
Okay. We're getting
Okay,
way
we'll get back on topic.
All right. Settle down, guys.
You guys need to like have your own separate podcast where you guys can make dumb jokes
I can't tell you how many times anyone in our school, has just said that's too hard, and the whole school has just erupted in laughter.
Yeah.
We're 3.
But all right, so I'd like to say that
You fun subjects of the world, everybody.
Yep.
I agree with you, Martin.
We're very smart, I promise.
That probably like 5 years ago, I was very liberal, and I just followed whatever my parents thought. So I
Me too.
I didn't have
I
much of my
didn't
own
because
thoughts.
my parents, one of them is super libertarian / anarchist, and so is the other one. So I was actually did the whole teen angst thing when I was like 9. I got over
I
that.
did the whole teen angst thing where I went against my anarchist parents.
Literally.
But no, my parents for the most part are very liberal. Well, not like crazy liberal. Sometimes crazy liberal.
Well,
I'll just say that my dad once said that the reason that forests are scary in movies is to oppress women. So
Forests.
the reason why
Forest?
forests are scary in movies
forest.
is to oppress
Like
women.
trees?
wait,
Like
Dylan,
just a group
Dylan,
of
what about I'm a
trees?
sexist?
What?
What about I'm a sexist?
Oh, yeah. My mom once said that she's a sexist because she thinks women should have more rights than men.
It is. Isn't that sexism though?
Yeah, no, I have her on video saying that she's a sexist.
She sent it to me.
Oh. Wait, what?
I did not respond.
Yep.
Because,
Okay, moving on. Moving
I
on.
think she was slightly joking, but she legitimately thinks that.
because men have oppressed women in the past, therefore it's women's turn to oppress men. But it's like, that's not how it works.
What? Why are we being blamed for what
our
our
ancestors? Yeah, it's like the people who put themselves in chains and act like, oh, I'm slave.
Let me insert some reason into this because this is getting a little bit. We have a biased view naturally coming from the fact that
All of us are men.
all of the people on here
Yeah.
are men. So to kind of add a little bit of an objective viewpoint, I understand what they're saying. That doesn't make it right.
Yeah.
But we objectively, men have oppressed women longer than
definitely.
women and men have had like equal rights. And even the debate of whether or not women and men have equal rights is still very, very hot. And depending on where you go or who you talk to, or even what area of equal rights you talk about, it varies. I mean, in social aspect, and then there's like political aspect, and then there's like working class aspect and like stereotype aspect. I think it all varies, and it all varies depending on who you talk to. I don't think there's one answer. I think there are some people who stereotype women, and I think there are some people who stereotype men, but I don't think it's like as much of a giant gender war as people like to make it.
I definitely think that there's
I hate it when people start out an argument with, as a white woman. I hate that so much. Like, somehow that gives you special privileges or certain rights to say things.
Yeah, when people say as a and then insert what aspect they have that they think should justify it. But,
well, I mean, it depends on what you're talking about because if there are certain things.
Well, yeah, obviously there are certain things that
but there are definitely certain things that each like race or gender can have. Like, you guys are getting a little bit too, I think, defensive of like. I agree that that's frustrating an argument, but there's still reasoning behind that. I mean, if you say as a white woman, I think peanut butter should be banned or something like that, that doesn't make sense. But for certain,
Well, yeah, definitely.
like as a white woman in her 20s, I know what being catcalled is like. Like that makes sense.
That makes sense.
I agree with that.
But what I was trying to say earlier was now we obviously all have a biased point of view. That being said, it's comparable to people that, I don't know if you've heard about this, but there are a group of white people who chain themselves up and like they get their kids to do it too, which is really messed up in my opinion. And like march in chains and then basically because, a long time ago, there was slavery, and, white people did oppress black people. And that really does come down to a worldview that some people have, and that's that, even if it's not your generation, if your quote unquote group did that, then that group is still held responsible. But to me, that seems more racist and more sexist, because you're literally judging them by the group and not the individual. Yeah. Like, just because my ancestors on my mom's side at some point may or may not have owned slaves. I have family in South Carolina, so I mean, probably built far enough back.
Like,
but I don't think I should be held responsible, nor any of my family.
I don't think you should be held responsible, but this is where things get tricky. Well, I kind of feel like the varying degrees of racism and sexism, I don't know how much I agree, believe in that. I kind of feel like that is also something that can be subjective. But also, when people blame people for their ancestors, if you're blaming people for your ancestors and you yourself were never a slave, you're also by the logic, I don't understand the logic that you automatically have a direct attachment to something your ancestors did or experienced. So, but also at the same time, I understand being someone who is upset by how their culture has been treated throughout history. I mean, I have Irish heritage, and my grandmother is very Irish, and she loves to go on rants about how poorly Irish have been treated throughout history. So I can understand the kind of the same way people who love Batman are very proud of Batman. There's a solidarity when it comes to things like race and gender that we really shouldn't have, but we naturally just form ourselves into. And I can understand people emotionally attaching themselves to something they may not have ever experienced. But at the same time, I don't think that means they have a right to blame people for that.
Definitely.
Just because they're I feel like it's hard to have this discussion though, because people are so emotionally attached to both sides. It's undeniable that racism exists and that it is still definitely a problem, and it goes a lot more both ways now than it did. And I think people don't like to admit when things are really not as bad as they are. Over dramatic is kind of in our blood, it seems, because I mean, look at Black Panther. I haven't seen it yet. I've heard it's an amazing movie, and I've also heard people people are only saying it's amazing because it's an all black cast, and I'm well, and I haven't seen it, so I don't have an opinion yet, but I'm but that doesn't make sense to me. I think it's probably a really good movie, considering everyone I've talked to says it's a really good movie. And it doesn't make sense for people to praise it just because it is a primarily black cast. I don't understand the logic behind people who say that.
And that's, I think that what you just said, Martin, quote unquote, I don't understand the logic, is the exact problem that I have with the whole identitarian politics scene. And here's the thing. I think there's a fine line between patriotism and proud from where you came from, and as well as, recognizing the horrors that, your ancestors may or may not have faced, and the privileges they may or may not have faced. And then on the other side of that fine line, which you shouldn't be blaming someone else because their ancestors did something to your ancestors. And that would actually come down to the same thing as if you really want to unpack that, what if your mom or dad did something immoral? Would you be then held responsible for that fully? Of course you wouldn't. You wouldn't be held responsible for that unless you actually directly participated in that. And that's why I think people need to I think that that's where pride for where you came from, as well as patriotism for where you came from, and recognizing the privileges and or oppression that where you came from, that our ancestors have or may have or have not faced. I think there's a fine line between recognizing that and then going into the whole, we should be treated as groups, the whole group rights seen and individual rights that you hear a lot when it comes to right and left in politics.
Yeah, I think it's an emotional thing for people because if you're a black man and you have a friend who gets shot by the police for no reason, and there's not the person to blame is the police or the policeman or like all white people or like white people from hundreds of years ago. Like it's like when bad things happen and when there are situations that don't have a clear right and wrong, people blame people for it. Like, and that kind of talk and that kind of mentality, I think happens to most people without them really realizing it. Like, my friend is dead because of racism, so I'm going to go and I'm going to blame all white people or like that, or like it's the same thing that happens with like 9/11. All these people are dead because of Islamic terrorists. Therefore, I'm going to blame all people who have Islamic religious beliefs. Like that kind of mentality almost always comes from a place of hurt. And when you're hurt, as you can see with every situation ever, when someone is upset, it's hard for someone to be logical. And while I don't agree with anyone who makes any of those broad assumptions based off of something like that, I have a hard time getting super mad at it because bad things happen. Like, bad things have happened, and bad things have happened because of things related to this. And it's the same thing. It can tie back to gun control because bad things happen and people want an answer and people want something to blame. With gun control, with like school shootings, people blame guns. With like that, people blame white people. Like that kind of thing, I think it's not always a super simple answer. Like, well, we need to like just make equal rights, or we need to just take away guns. Like, that doesn't work. Things need to we need to actually change our own bias and our own, like, how we raise children. We need to change that. Like, we don't raise, like, if you've watched the show before, you know one of my biggest points is we do not raise children in a safe and nurturing environment, as demonstrated by the fact that they feel the need to go and shoot people. Like, regular people don't want to do that. If you, like, but there's always that kind of emotional unbalance in kids these days, but because we're raising them the same way we raised them 30 years ago, but in a world that has changed a lot in 30 years.
I think it comes down to also in a more, if anyone wants to, say in more simple terms, it can always come down to something like when people should be blaming a person instead of people blaming a person, people blame people. And that comes down to the whole blaming many for the actions of a few. And I mean, you can obviously see both points of view. That being said, I think now I will challenge both sides to look, because for the side that people, blame the whole group, I would say look at their perspective. They just lost someone, or maybe they're in an environment that was caused because of the stripes of their ancestors. And they may not be right in blaming an entire group for the actions of not even them, their ancestors. But, I mean, maybe try to sympathize with them and then therefore reach a better outcome.
Exactly.
It's a lot easier to debate with someone to the point of agreeing instead of disagreeing at the end when you're actually coming to a point of sympathy. And for the opposite side, I would say look at the point of view of where you're just a regular old person, you're sitting in your house, and let's say in a huge group of people, someone start blaming you for all their problems. And what did you do? You did absolutely nothing.
Yeah, you got up and you made coffee and you
made coffee
on
and,
TV.
I mean, people that are blaming these groups, think about that. Think about just a random, if you're blaming all white people, think about just a random white cisgendered male. He just wakes up, makes his coffee,
Watches Seinfeld. Seinfeld's great.
watches Seinfeld, and he just goes to work, comes back, and he just unwinds.
Just an
Yeah.
average American.
Yeah,
Yeah.
average American. And then you have people blaming you for things that you've never done. Like, just try to see
Yeah.
it from both perspectives here.
Yeah, like it's the biggest problem with it is then that perpetuates it. Because if you're just a regular guy and you got like, well, like all these kids are entitled and like they want something and I had to work all day, or I could watch Seinfeld and drink my coffee. Like it just perpetuates the cycle of needless anger, because when someone gets it, like it's in our nature to be very defensive, and that's basically what all arguments boil down to, is people arguing and then reacting defensively. That's just like, you look at anything, that's usually why. It's always a tension of that sort. Like, well, you did this. Well, I only did this because you did this. And like, just excuses and stuff like that. And everyone does it without realizing they do it, because no one wants to be wrong in a situation. Like, that's no fun. It's no fun to accept blame for something. And it's even worse when you're getting blamed for something you had no part of, because then all you do is just blame them for things they probably also didn't have any part of. And then all of a sudden you have a giant argument between two groups of people where they're arguing about things about people that aren't even alive anymore.
Yeah.
Or, like, are only just some of the people. Or like just arguing about redundant things that they shouldn't be arguing about.
Yeah, and then after that, it escalates like to some pretty awful things happening. Like, for example, the Rwandan genocide, where Hutu like groups blame Tutsis for their problems and for things that the Tutsi ancestors did in the past, or not even them, but the Belgians who colonized Rwanda and Burundi. Like, they were blaming them for that, and it's soon escalated in about 800,000 people dying, like, for no reason at all.
Or something that hits closer to home, police shootings.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, I was just reading about something the other day. The same day as the mass shooting at the school, there was a person who tried to go into a church and shoot up the church. And a man disarmed him and took the weapon, and the police came in and were like, put the gun down. And it was loaded, and he said, I don't want to drop it because it might fire off accidentally. So he tried to slowly put it down, and they shot him 3 times. He survived.
I swear.
He survived, but like, that's just like awful. And no one, you don't hear about that because there's other crises going on. But you also don't hear about the good things ever in any news format. You only hear about the bad things. And you also are made, like, you're empowered for being, like, you are basically shamed if you're if you don't politically align with the people around you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't think that was as big of a thing 20 years ago. Like, political arguments have always existed. Like, philosophical, like, politics, in my opinion, all come down to philosophy. Like, and I think that's just kind of been something that's been hotly debated since humans were able to debate about things. And like, when we have a culture that have these things that are like this access to everyone you could ever possibly imagine having access to, and access into an unnatural one-sided view of other people's lives, like the entire nature of a celebrity, you can get more confident, and then you can start arguments with people and get very, very aggressive towards people for being different than you, because you have a window and you feel more empowered if you realize, oh, all these people are Democrats, so I'm going to surround myself with people who are Democrats, and if they're not Democrats online, I'm going to scream at them and tell them they need...
Or a more easier term, an echo chamber. People getting sent in an echo chamber.
Like, that's essentially what the internet it does to most people.
I think it sucks too that like most television, I mean, most television and movies are basically centered around what, like New York and Los Angeles, which are two of the most democratic places in the world, or not, maybe not in the world, but in the country.
I was gonna say, that's kind of a broad statement, but okay.
Yeah, well, I guess in the country, I would think that they are one of the two biggest hubs for liberals.
I mean,
Definitely L.A.
keep in mind though that I don't, unlike a lot of people, I don't get mad at like quote unquote liberal agendas in
Yeah.
movies because I mean
Oh, well,
the
Yeah,
majority of people that like make those movies have those beliefs, and if they have those beliefs, make movies about those beliefs. Like
no, well, what I was trying to say is like people who essentially just go with the grain and don't try and get past anything, only watch those movies and they get their heads filled with just those ideas. So
okay,
then,
yeah, I see
what
you
I'm
mean.
trying to get to is that the general public, or not not the whole public, but
Yeah, I think I
big-
see. What you mean.
the big part of the public is just one big echo chamber that they don't realize.
Well, when you're on the internet,
What was that?
I have no idea. Was that me?
It's not me.
It looks like it's Dylan.
Is that you, Dylan?
Now we can't hear you.
Yeah, it's Dylan.
Oh my god, what the hell? Is it how it sounded when I was in India?
That
No, it was a lot different.
you sound like a high-pitched robot from a movie.
Let's just ignore him for now. So,
Ignore him. Yeah, I think when you have something like the internet, you can be under the impression that you're getting lots of viewpoints in.
now he's gone.
Oh, he's gone.
He'll be back.
He'll be back.
I think when it comes to political agendas in movies, if you're making a movie about a political agenda, I'm all for it. But when I go to a theater and I sit down and I want to be entertained, then I want to be entertained. I don't want to have a political agenda shoved down my throat during an action movie.
For me,
Ooh, I got it.
hey, it's Dylan. For me, I feel like whoever's making the movie, you should have a right to have your script be however you want.
Yeah, I think they definitely have a
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
About
You
it.
definitely have the right. It's just the fact that I personally, when I go to see a movie, I want to be amused in the way that movie's advertising. If you're making a political documentary,
Yeah.
by all means. But if you're making an action movie or a romance, if you're going to throw in politics in there, I kind of just go, really, I'm not here to talk about politics. I just go, this is the one time a day don't talk about politics, okay?
Yeah.
So can you please just let me have this.
Yeah.
This is the one time a day don't talk about politics.
I think it also comes from like a politics. I think most people, or at least just the world right now, in the last like year or two, politics have become way more important
Than they were.
to most people than they were. Like, as someone who has had access to the internet and like you ask people I know, I'm a keen observer of things. Like that's kind of what I do, is I like try and my best to pay attention to people and how they act, and people are definitely, I think pretty much since the 2016 election and like the year leading up to that, where people were voting, politics have become,
Politics have exploded since
yeah,
then.
like look at the Oscars. Look at the Oscars and the Grammys and like everything ever. Any sort of public event has something to do with politics now.
Yeah. And see, I don't know when this was, but once on Youth and Subjects of the World, we were talking about people getting too enriched in politics and always talking about it. We were focusing on America. And I made the argument that I think that's what makes America really, really awesome. People getting together and just talking, and you just have an interest in government, and I just thought that's what makes the world awesome. Just the common everyday average person so talking about this, especially when you see so many people that are introverted and don't want to talk about it. However, that being said, there is a difference between 2 people having a conversation or 20 people having a conversation and people in a media outlet that people trust influencing people in a way that where they trust the actors or they trust the people,
Yeah.
and it's not in a documentary setting. They have the freedom to do that. Don't get me wrong. They have the freedom to do that.
But it doesn't mean they should. Yeah.
They should. Now,
I see what you mean.
yeah.
I'd like to say too. Piggybacking off Neil's thing about going to the movies and having there be a political agenda towards it. I didn't think it was great. Like
It definitely wasn't. It definitely. I mean, it was all right, but it wasn't like for a Marvel movie. I expected a little bit more.
I mean, like it was an okay Marvel movie. I'll say that.
But-
I didn't think it was bad.
Real quick though, how, like, going into the movie, were you skeptical of its political agenda?
I mean, I thought it might have a slight undertone of a political agenda.
So, like,
considering it's an
but I kind of feel like a bias against political agendas can make us fixate on them more as well.
Me
'Cause
going into
When I saw,
Well,
Star
I do
Wars.
think, like, I think the main plot is essentially a political agenda. So it wasn't really like I was going into it trying to find where all the political agendas were.
although Dylan, I didn't tell you there was a slight undertone of a political agenda during the end, especially before you went there, right?
Okay,
no,
don't give any
really.
spoilers though, because I haven't seen it yet, and I really want to.
I won't. We won't spoil anything. Not really. Maybe a tiny bit.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like I was going in there just watching it just to find like, oh, there's something political. There's something.
Well, I'm gonna go talk about it and rant on Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
Just the
Yeah.
typing.
How you know? I mean,
vigorously, just
yeah. I was imagine being that person's mom. You just hear, "Hi, mom, back from school." But when I went into the movie, I expected there to be zero political agenda. And about the all-black cast, I couldn't really give 2 craps. I didn't really care. They were a good cast. They were really good at acting.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
don't care how much pigment they have in their skin. They were good actors. There were some really, like, oh my God, there was a "what are those" joke in the movie. That sent me into, I'm sorry.
Oh no. Oh,
There was a
okay.
"what are those" joke in the movie. I literally just said, I hate that character now. I'm sorry, I do.
Yes.
Okay.
But I would say I thought it was okay, but I definitely agree. It's annoying. Like,
I mean, for a Marvel movie, I mean, I expected a little bit more from a Marvel movie. But that being said, it was an alright movie. I feel like it was a mediocre movie because I told this to Dylan. The story was okay, but it wasn't good enough to make it a story-driven movie. The characters were good, but the characters weren't great enough to make it a character-driven movie. The action was good, but it wasn't frequent enough to make it an action-driven movie. It was just kind of a good movie overall.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a, wow, this is great Marvel content, action, or great story, great characters.
I heard that Winter Soldier and the Avengers are the 3 best Marvel movies. So
Oh yeah, I like Winter Soldier. I really love the Avengers, although I really like the original Iron Man and the original Captain America.
I'm something that's like my problem with people who are like mad at political agenda in Black Panther is like political agenda, and not even agenda, just political stuff has been prevalent in Marvel literally since like the first movie. Like,
Yeah.
especially in the Captain America franchise, like
Oh yeah, but that's
the first movie was like just a fun action movie, and then by the second one it's like him realizing, and second and third one is like him realizing the problems with America and him realizing that like it's the country that he was told he was living in and what he was fighting for when he was young isn't necessarily what it made itself out to be. And
but
like,
that is more SHIELD and Hydra.
yeah, but I
Yeah,
feel like that was also kind of used as like kind of like a mirror kind of like analogy, like this is what it is, but it's really trying to mirror the fact that
in
like,
Black Panther, for me, there was a little bit of a political agenda. It really didn't overtake the movie. It just left a bad taste in my mouth just because I have a tendency to remember those sort of political agenda things. But it was very slight. But it left a bad taste in my mouth because it felt out of place.
hmm.
Because I won't say anything, actually. Never mind.
Yeah,
I mean,
don't.
Yeah. Because
Don't
one,
get
for one, you
spoilers.
haven't seen it. And number 2, some of the viewers may not have seen it, and it's
Yeah.
a new movie still, so I'm not going to spoil it.
I would definitely
Yeah.
recommend. I would say go see it.
Oh yeah, first of
No,
all,
I'm definitely going to see it.
see every Marvel movie because when Infinity War comes out, you need to be up to date.
Yeah.
So, I
So
don't care if it's crap. See it.
yeah. So I think we should go to break a little early because I would like to talk a lot more in the next half, but I have to leave at 5:30.
Mm.
So
Okay.
to kind of give a little bit of a segue into the break is a short, I believe, I could be wrong, I'm pretty sure it's a short film about gender.
Oh,
And-
is it that one that you sent me?
I think so. I could be wrong. I'm
Alright.
pretty sure that's the one we picked. But that is,
So when we get back from break, let's talk about gender.
yeah, that's what we're going to do. Okay, so see ya after the break.
See ya. Stick around. Cool
Yeah.
video.
Ever since the beginning of time, things have been exactly the same. Boys and girls are separated by what they can and cannot do. It's also boring. Boys wear pink, girls wear blue. Boys wear dresses, and girls can't. We're viewed as the strong ones. We play sports. If a boy develops an interest in football, he is told to go back to the kitchen where he belongs. As far as I know, it has always been this way. Stereotypes suck.
Ooh, this one's cute. Good color. Oh. Hello? Hey. How are you? Yeah? Hey, what are you doing?
Oh, I was just looking.
No. This is the boys' section. Nothing for you here. You stick to the girls' clothes. Come on.
Time out. Settle for long jump shots.
Today is a great day.
You got the job. I could go to the... You can't allow her...
They're all great summer clothes.
And months pass, seasons fly, still you don't walk.
Stay focused. Raised a strong athlete, not a wimpy musical theater kid. Pull it together.
I know, Mom. Oh my God, Jamie's doing musical theater.
And now I'm all alone again, nowhere to turn, no one to go to. Without a home, without a friend, without a face to say hello to.
What are you watching?
Mom.
No. I've had enough of this. You are a girl. Girls are not meant to do musical theater. You should be focusing on trying out for the football team. I saw you looking at that dress.
So what?
So you can't.
So what? I was looking at a dress. It's an article of clothing. It's a piece of fabric. There's no gender assigned to a piece of fabric. It's people like you who stereotype me and try and make me normal. What if I want to wear a dress? What if I think a dress is cute? And who says girls can't wear makeup and paint their nails? I'm so sick of being stereotyped and being told what I should and shouldn't like just because of the way I was born. Well, guess what? I want to wear that dress, I want to paint my nails, and I want to star in the school musical too. You're my mom and I love you, but I just wish you would support me.
Hello.
Bro.
Hey.
Welcome back to all 5 of you.
Welcome back to...
There's actually one, and I'm pretty sure that one is me.
Yeah.
So then these are the 99% of you that are actually watching this episode pre-recorded. Hello. You probably might have skipped through the other video.
Doesn't our streaming thing like not actually tell us exactly who's watching now? Thought that was some bug with it, or maybe that was a long time ago. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, that was a video that exists on the internet. And it was about like gender identity and stereotypes. And
Bless you.
yeah,
Bless
what do you guys have to say about it? I'll go last.
about gender. Well, I think they make some interesting points, and then there's some points that are really dumb. Like that there's no biological differences between men and women. I hear a lot of...
Dude, no, dude. I was actually talking about the video.
Oh, wait, what video? I thought you were talking... I thought you were going to talk about the...
Yeah.
We were talking about transgenderism. And I was like,
no,
I guess we're talking about
we were talking about gender, but
I
that's...
didn't actually watch that because he's a noob.
Oh, well, I didn't
even know I was supposed to watch that.
I didn't see the whole thing anyway.
Okay.
Well, I'll just stay out of it since I've never seen it.
Well, no, I wanted to segue into that, but I wanted to start talking
Yeah,
about...
let's start with the video, then we can segue into that. So I guess I'll go then, whatever. So the video, I thought, I mean, in general, I didn't like it. I didn't hate it. Well, okay, that's mean. I liked it. It was a good video. It was well produced. It was, I thought the overall message was, basically, why are we just, and Martin's gone.
Yep. All right. Let's continue. Neil, continue.
And the message is basically just around, like, why do we have these gender roles? If you're a guy, if you're a girl, do whatever you want. Doesn't matter about your gender. That general message I agree with. The way they were portraying it in there, I mean, obviously it wasn't meant to be portrayed literally. Like the whole thing about like, oh, I can't join theater because, or I have to do football. That's kind of like the stereotypical like football, that type thing that would be happening. That being said, that's not the message. The message itself is what does it matter? Who cares? Do whatever you want, regardless of gender. And I would agree with that. Now when it comes to, because they're talking about like wearing a dress. If you're a guy and you want to wear a dress, be my guest. Go and wear a dress all you want. It may be seen as weird because we do have now I know this is like a buzzword, social construct, but it is a social construct that men don't wear dresses. It is not a social construct that women wear dresses because women don't have to necessarily, but it is a social construct that men don't wear dresses and it's only for women. Now, social constructs aren't necessarily a bad thing, nor aren't necessarily a good thing. It depends on the social construct itself. I think
social constructs in that situation exist just because of what things were like, but now it's just seen as weird. Like, I think social constructs are something, though, that change with the times, and they're definitely changing now, like, especially now, considering there's, like, a giant movement of people who are like, social constructs are stupid. Social constructs exist. Like, social constructs just happen. Like, that's just...
Yeah, I mean, it's a social construct to murder anyone. It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Like, things like that happen. Like, what's perceived as weird or normal happens automatically. There's not like people set out to plan out what's going to be considered okay and not okay. Like,
right.
Obviously that does happen, but that's not what the majority of things is. Is it just me or did Dylan just freeze like this?
I did just yawn.
Dylan, that's what you do in the woods, right?
Yes, Neil.
That's what the school says. That's what happened in the Walkstone.
Yep.
Everyone knows it. I'm sorry, that was off topic and an inside joke. And let's continue.
I'm really confused, but I'm not gonna ask what's going on.
Just
yeah.
Don't even ask.
Just
Really.
walk away, Martin.
Go, you have to do this. Like that. Like you have to, like that. I'm sorry.
All right.
I know, it makes no sense at all.
It makes no sense from an outside perspective.
So, for me, all I hear is laughing and noises because my screen keeps freezing. So
No,
for
I just-
Neil is just going like this.
No, this and Dylan bursts out laughing, and you have no idea why.
Yeah, so I can't see what people's reaction.
Martin, that's my voice just cracked real bad. That's literally what happened. That's literally what happened. I just did this, and Dylan burst out laughing. You missed nothing with cutting or whatever.
Oh okay.
Okay.
Anyways, Neil and Dylan are no longer allowed to be on shows anymore. Anyways, basically, I think, so to get a little bit past the video, because we kind of just did that automatically, I think gender, now this is probably the touchiest subject we could talk about. So I just would like to start by saying,
aside from
well, no, actually, I mean, just like the fact that we are youth. In youth culture, if that such a thing even exists, I think.
I feel like, Martin, you unintentionally sound like an 80-year-old man.
Yes, I know. That's literally my life. Look at this haircut. I'm pretty sure I am an 80-year-old man.
Are you trying to? Well, look, I feel like do I have is this the white supremacist haircut? I know there's one of those. It's close to it.
I don't know. Anyway.
Neil's a white supremacist.
Yes. I'm a tan white supremacist.
But basically, I would just like to start by saying anything we say does not necessarily reflect, we are individuals, and what we say does not necessarily
We don't represent our group.
Yeah, we don't represent the entire the entire youth on subjects of the world thing. When as you can probably see, considering we all usually have different opinions on stuff. But
especially how it used to be last season, there were
Yeah.
an amount of people, and
Yeah.
a lot of them did disagree. Also on this, I'm gonna guess.
Yeah.
This is a very
So-
sensitive subject.
Yeah. Basically, my point of view on this topic is very, like, I've been researching and just basically learning about this for a very, very long time in order to talk about this on this show. But I never wanted to, mainly because, like, I didn't want to ever upset people. I think I don't believe that transgenderism should be as prominent as it currently is. Like, or like non-binary kind of thing.
Yeah.
To say that does not necessarily mean that I believe that people who are transgender and non-binary shouldn't be. It's just that the movement in general, I feel like, shouldn't be displayed. I think it's contradictory to say genders don't matter and then to change your gender to fit into it. Like, if you can't say genders don't matter, like, that's kind of like, if there's no difference in genders, why would you change your gender? Like, just like the basic logic behind it bothers me. And also, I have personal experiences being 15-year-old homeschooler who goes to conferences and stuff. Like, a lot of the culture of people my age right now revolves around that. And I've had personal experiences where I've had people kind of shut me out for no real reason, just because of the fact that I wasn't, like, transgender. Like, the fact that, like, I've never said or done anything to hurt someone based off of their, like, sexual preference or political beliefs or skin or, like, anything like that. But I've had someone in particular do it to me because I wouldn't also change who I was to be more similar to them. And, like, I just got that, when that happened, it kind of got me thinking, like, okay, well, you just, like, shut me out because you literally changed who you were and then got mad at me for not changing who I am to fit, like, who you are now. And that is entirely my personal experience. But it got me thinking, like, when you change your gender and you change your name, you are changing who you are, even if you're not meaning to. And that can affect the people around you. Like, you obviously do what you do, like, what is best for you to be comfortable. But you have to think about the fact that, like, your parents or your friends, like, or your siblings, they are affected by whatever decision you make. And while that shouldn't change your decision, you should still realize, if you say, I'm now a boy, like, I'm now a boy and I now change my name and my wardrobe and how I act, that's pretty much changing who you are as a person. And it's natural for people to respond to that with, like, some upset, like,
or at the very least, curiosity.
Like, I lost a very close friend because they felt like they felt I wasn't changing enough, and that that they felt scared that I wouldn't accept them, even though I never gave any sort of hint to not accepting them. And that kind of change made me realize that, whoa, like, I lost one of my closest friends to, like, and they've changed completely who they are. And now they no longer, like, obviously it's normal for people to grow as a person, but, like, that kind of made me start talking to other people. And then I've kind of, like, for the last, like, year and a half, like, around the time that happened, I've kind of just been asking other people's experiences. And I ended up talking to a parent at one point, and they were basically like, I completely respect my child's belief, but it's definitely hard. Like, I used to have a son and now I have a daughter, and that is like, that's a difference. Like there is a difference in who they are now. And that's like that, while I want to support their changes, it feels like they don't really understand that that is a difficult thing. And then I also came to
I think I don't think that should stop you from trying to be who you want to be, but I don't think you can just like I don't think you can have these expectations that your parents or just the people around you that they're just going to be like
No questions asked.
that they should just be entirely loving and caring.
like
That, like if they have any other emotions
Let's just be clear here.
besides I love you, then they're like evil and they're crazy and they're wrong. Like I think that's
Let's
unreasonable.
just be fully clear here. Regardless of we haven't both. Everyone's been saying this, but let's just be fully clear here. None of this should. What other people think shouldn't affect the decision of your identity, but you should be prepared to accept that you are changing who you are in a fundamental way, and people will need to readjust, despite the fact that they may love you. To the point if they're a parent, they may love you unconditionally, but you have to understand the fact that they need to come to terms with this. And they're just adjusting, and they just don't understand some things. And that doesn't mean they're being discriminatory, transphobic, like that. They are just taken aback.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing.
And that's not to say that there are not people who are transphobic. I don't believe in discrimination in any situation ever. But I think like the whole Tumblr kind of like transgender or non-binary kind of thing kind of creates an outlook where all people who aren't like super liberal are automatically evil based off of the loud minority of people who are like evil. There's definitely a loud minority of
there's a loud minority in almost every human organization.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of like super right-wing people who are like, oh, all transgender people are bad and evil, and they don't deserve to be treated the same as everyone else, and like that is evil. But I think people just kind of assume that that's how all people are going to act.
Yeah, like there's only two extremes. I think people expect that there's only two extremes to a possibility, and that there's no middle ground. It's just like either you love them unconditionally and there's nothing wrong, or like I hate you and you're the worst.
I know, and this is more for the benefit of the person who's transitioning than it is for the other people. So you have to understand that because this message, honestly, is going to benefit the people that are transitioning more than the people that are going to be affected by your relationship by it, because of the fact that you need to be ready to accept that they're just going to be a little bit confused, and they're just going to be like taken aback and like, whoa, wait, what? It doesn't. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Be prepared, because I mean you're already obviously in a state where you're not happy with who you are entirely. Yeah. You want to change, and that's good that you're recognizing that. However, you should be ready unless you want further disappointment. Yeah.
Also, to get a little bit further away from that, there is definitely, as in every situation, a jump on the bandwagon kind of thing.
Yes.
And I think there are a lot of people who want to feel like they're part of a minority, so they decide to change who they are just in an attempt to find themselves. And I've talked to some people who are like, I'm just kind of like, I'm confused. Like, I want to find a place, and this seemed like a place, but I'm not getting the outcome I wanted from it. Like,
it's like a community. I think a lot of people nowadays lack a community of people.
Yeah. And when you have
they'll just find anything to be part of. Like, it's just human nature to want to be a part of something.
Like, when you look at, like, when you have the internet and you can have this window into other, like, communities of people who you want to feel like you're a part of something. And I feel like, I don't know. For me, I also feel like anything I say kind of comes with a grain of salt, because I had someone, like, seriously hurt me based off of, like, their decisions. And, like, that bothers, like, I have felt upset about that, but my issue with that is also because, like, was an issue with them personally that isn't necessarily an issue with everyone. That like they were too like they made a decision to change who they were, and then didn't give anyone the chance to like accept them. Like they just automatically assumed no one would and shut me out of their life. And that
I think that might be the far extreme part of what we're saying, because we're saying expect people to be a little taken aback and just wonder what's going on. It doesn't mean cut them out of your life.
Well, the problem was at that time I wasn't even taken aback. I was like, oh sweet, like, and I just tried to like continue on as normal, and they were basically like, I'm worried you won't accept me, without me giving any sort of hint. It wasn't until after that happened that I was like, well, I wonder, like, that's when I started to think like, well, how do parents feel about this, and how do like siblings feel about this? Like, how does it impact the people around you? Like, I think this, to a less extreme point, or just in a different point, it's like if like you're friends with someone, or your siblings, or your child is like now super emo or super goth, or like just like a difference in personality that wasn't expecting, and now you feel alienated from them. But
Yeah.
when it's something like gender, you automatically feel bad for feeling alienated, because you feel like you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. And you feel like it's a part of yourself that's being rejected too.
Yeah.
Like as something as essential and fundamental and basic as your gender.
Yeah.
And
Like-
I think that, okay, go ahead.
I also feel like people confuse biological gender and like what like gender stereotypes.
Yeah, sex, biological gender, Yeah.
Yeah, like I think you can be a guy who acts like a girl, or you can be a girl who acts like a guy without feeling the need to change your gender. Like
You can be
if your point is really that genders don't matter, why do you feel the need to like change your gender?
You can be look, you can be, no one is just this macho man, or no one is just this little girly girl. Everybody has traits that are different, and some of them identify with the stereotypical female, some of them identify with the stereotypical male. This doesn't change your biological sex. Your biological sex does remain constant. You can get gender reassignment surgery. That doesn't necessarily change your biological sex.
Yeah.
But that being said, if I like you as a person and I like you as an individual, or if you're just a regular person, my default reaction is going to be, if you want to be called she instead of he, I'm going to say she. If you want to be called he instead of she, I'm going to say she. Just because I respect you as a person, by default, I respect your choices, and I understand what transgenderism is to an extent.
Exactly. I do question why people make this decision. I like people like Ben Shapiro, who refuses to call people by their preferred pronoun. To me, there is no one is physically harming me by telling me that this or this.
Yes, that's my point.
I don't feel a need to make a point of calling someone by their other gender. Like, to me, that is just being a jerk. And that's,
I was just about to say, it just comes across as arrogant.
Yeah, like
I have something to add to
problems with someone.
I have something to add to that. So I'm a pretty big Ben Shapiro fan, but I definitely don't. I definitely will call people if they want to be called whatever pronouns they want, besides Z or Zim or whatever they want.
If honestly though, if somebody, I wouldn't agree with it, but if somebody that I really respect and care about wanted to be called Zim or Z or Cactopus, I would probably call them Cactopus. I wouldn't agree with it, but I respect them as a person. Like if Dylan wanted to be called Cactopus,
I guess I'll say that
he's joking,
Ben Shapiro's idea on why he doesn't call people that is not, I don't necessarily agree with him, but in his mind it seems quite reasonable, because he thinks that it's like
he thinks it's a mental illness.
It technically is, though. Let's just be clear.
Well, he thinks it's a mental illness, and it's it's like saying if someone had schizophrenia, and they said that the radio's talking to them, and you're like, oh yeah, Grandpa, the radio is talking to you. Like, that's
Like-
not a rational thing to do.
I think, but I also think that
But I don't necessarily agree with him. But that is.
well, I understand. Like, I'm also a really big Ben Shapiro fan, but when it comes to that, I think the logic behind that is flawed because that it gives the assumption that every person who identifies as trans is like under the impression they're actually another gender. Like that, I think there's a difference between saying I want to be called he and thinking I am he. It's not the same thing. In my opinion, there's definitely a difference. And while I understand his logic, I think it's not scalable because that's assuming every single person who identifies as trans automatically falls under the category of thinks they're something they're not instead of wants to be something they're not.
But let's just be so there's a lot of controversy around this, and not that many studies have been done, and it is hard to do studies about this, but the scientific consensus right now is that transgender people have something known as gender dysphoria.
Well, that's last time I checked, that was not the scientific
Yeah, I think it's still disputed, but
I think
now that's the popular theory.
I think gender. Well, also I think there's a like I said, there's a difference between someone thinking they're something else and someone identifying. Like
I think the act of wanting to be a different gender than you already are is something different going on in your brain. That's not necessarily a bad thing, nor is it necessarily a good thing.
Well, I don't think
something that's going on.
I don't think that that's necessary. I don't think that it's necessarily something in a brain. I think sometimes it's something I think it's more of a socially constructed thing rather than something.
Well, when you hear these interviews of people who are transgender, or you talk to people, you immediately hear people talking about how I never understood. I've always and this is why I understand why some things are social constructs when it comes to boy and girl toys and stuff, but other things aren't. Girls do navigate towards dolls. It doesn't mean that boys don't like dolls. When I was a kid,
we have our own version. They're called action figures.
I had a doll and a purse when I was a kid because I had the doll because I felt like it. I had a doll because it was given to my sister when she was a baby and she was too young to use it. And I had the purse because I saw my mom carrying around a purse and I was like, oh, one of those. That looks cool. So I carried around a little baby and I carried around a purse. Shut up, Noah. I carried around a little baby and I carried around a purse. That didn't necessarily, that didn't make me a woman. I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore because I have no desire to carry a purse, nor do I have any desire to carry a baby unless I want to drop it off at the nearest adoption clinic because I don't want that. I'm kidding.
But I think I think there's also something to it of socially we construct this thing of boys or at least up until very, very recently, boys do this, girls do that. And I think if you're growing up and you're more interested in something that's girly or more interested in something that's boyish, you would be interested in that. But nowadays, I think a lot of times, especially in the girl power early 2000s thing, it's way more socially accepted for girls to boy things. And I think a lot of the times when a girl wants to be a boy, it's to be a part of the trans community. And I think that that's not necessarily part of I don't think people who are like that are necessarily the same people that what?
I was saying, but when you hear people saying that, when you hear transgender people saying I feel like I'm trapped inside a body that isn't myself. I feel like a girl, but I'm trapped in a boy's body. When you hear that stuff, I guess just try to, I would say to people, now obviously they aren't actually a boy's body. They don't have a full skin on them. But that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and assume that they're not lying. They actually feel like that. And the point is that we don't know what this is yet. This is a new thing. community.
Exactly. Like, the biggest problem I think is, well, I don't think that is the case with a lot of it. We're never going to know because there's like, if anyone ever suggests, well, maybe it's an actual problem, everyone is just like, well, you're a bigot and you like,
Yeah.
I don't think it should be denied. I think it needs to be like studied, but I don't
Sake of study, yeah.
think that it is the case. But I don't believe that we should just completely ignore
Like,
it.
you never know. You're right. It might be like an actual disease where
Disease?
cured. Not like disease. Disease is the
Not
wrong
like
word.
an infection, but like a mental thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a mental illness in a way.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it is.
Yeah. I understand what you mean.
That's what the theory, let's be clear, the theory of gender dysphoria is. And I would say that theory makes sense. It may not be exactly what they're saying, but in all people who are transgender, identify as transgender, may not have that. However, when you see, like, let's look at Blair White. Do any of you know who Blair White is? Blair White she's a transgender female. She was a male. She's basically one of those stories that you hear where basically had always thought that she was a female trapped in like a body, and she is like I think she's gotten surgery. She actually has a boyfriend.
But
Yes, she's actually on the right wing.
yeah,
She voted for Trump.
yeah,
And yeah.
like, yeah, I understand. Like, but also the thing with it is, I don't know if it is like a mental illness.
Oh,
That's
she had a debate
necessarily
with Ben Shapiro too about it. She had a debate with Ben Shapiro.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't watch it, but I should. It sounds pretty cool.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's a complicated issue because I don't think any one case, like, I don't think any two cases are the same. Like, I think it's different for everyone. And I think some people who say, I feel like a boy trapped in a girl's body are, like, actually true. And I think some people who say it are just trying to be a part of something.
I think
And I think some people who say it are just confused, or like and it's like how in the 90s and like the late 80s, everyone in middle school was bisexual. Like, it's it's a way to feel different.
you're confused.
People like
You're going through puberty. Your body's being pumped with hormones. You don't understand what's going on. You're going to naturally be a little confused. That doesn't mean, and just because you like the color pink and you're a male, doesn't mean you've created a new gender called Blueberry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I actually, okay, 1 second.
Okay. So I was just about to say that that I'm going to quote Blair White here, and I think this is something that really summarizes the issue. You'll never see, when it comes to a person who's a transgender, like a true transgender, like just was male, now female, or was female, now male, when it comes to just a transgender person.
Wait, I have to actually hop off now.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for
Bye-bye.
having me on. I hope you continue to talk about it. I have ketchup now for some reason. That's a thing.
Cool.
So you put
Yeah, okay, bye.
Bye, Martin. See you later. All right, so I guess I'll just finish my thing. So, Blair White really summarized this issue really well. She said the difference between one of these new like third genders or 22nd gender and the difference between just male to female or female to male is that when it comes to transgenderism, you can find just a regular transgender person on any spectrum of the political scale. You can find, and I quote, a gun-toting tranny Alabama, or a blue-haired liberal in San Francisco. But when you look at these third genders like Zim and Zir, you're always going to find them on the left-leaning spectrum. And she personally voted for Trump. Okay, let's keep that in mind here. And I mean, she clearly, and she's a very rational person too. Now, that's what look, let me just summarize it in my mind, and then you two, Nathaniel, have barely said anything about this topic. I'm sorry if you were talking.
Yeah, I like, You can finish, then I'll say my bit of like just explain why I'm not talking a lot. Like just-
Okay. Now you got me in suspense. All right. But so I think that really when it comes down to it, transgenderism is a relatively new topic in science. It is new. We are still discovering what's going on. I personally think there are people who, like Martin was saying, who are just doing it for the sake of doing it, and that really should be discouraged because it devalues actual people who are transgender.
Just for attention. I think definitely there's definitely an amount of people. I'm not saying it's most or even close to like, most, but there's definitely a percentage of people that do it just to get attention.
And that should be discouraged heavily, considering it devalues the claim of actual transgendered people.
Definitely.
There is a theory about gender dysphoria, and that is a mental disease that transgender people have. And honestly, for me, I think it actually might. I think the only logical way it makes sense is that it is a mental illness. This is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not inherently bad. What if all three of us discovered that actually we're female, or just imagine we act exactly how we are now. I'm guessing we all identify as males. And then you were just, because this is how they describe it. Some of them do. Like Martin was saying, I don't think all of them are like this. I do think there are some liars out there. Who knows how many? But you just, this is wrong. I am not a female. I am a male. Like, there's like just, I mean, to me, that seems like a condition of the brain. That's not necessarily a bad thing. What if all three of us discovered that we actually shouldn't be identifying as males? It's actually just something in our brain causing it. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that it's happening. Not a bad thing. It just means it's happening. Now, are there 84 genders? Absolutely not. I'm sorry. There are 2 genders, male and female. Just because you're not completely 100% male, you're not completely 100% female, doesn't mean you created a new gender. It just means you're
like kind of like a tom girl or a tomboy. Like you're a little bit of both. Like that we have those for a reason.
There's a difference between being a male who's not stereotypically male and being a transgendered female. And people need to understand that as this issue evolves. And that's where I'll cut this off. All right. So Dylan and Nathaniel, maybe Dylan should go and then Nathaniel's final, like, why am I not talking about this? Because I'm in suspense.
Well, we still got to talk about the new development with a new game.
Well, we have 30 minutes, so we have time.
Yes, we will have time to do that.
Okay.
All right, Dylan, close.
I mean, I pretty much agree with what you and Martin have been saying. I mean, I am a big fan of Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, I'm a fan too.
But not so much on this transgenderism stuff.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know, he's lesser known with Jordan Peterson. I'm a very big fan of Jordan Peterson, who's very much into the identitarian politics scene.
Mm-hmm.
But
wait, by into, do you mean like into debating it, against it?
Actually, not against it, just against certain people that are for it.
Okay.
He's definitely not against transgenderism.
Yeah, I know. He was just saying that he shouldn't be forced.
Yes, he shouldn't be forced. He's
like a lot of people think that Jordan Peterson was saying that I'm not going to use gender neutral. I'm not going to use someone else's gender pronouns. No, that's not what he was saying. He was saying that he shouldn't be forced to. And also, he said I think he even said that he would use gender neutral pronouns if he respected the person and knew the person.
Yes.
That being said, he may not agree with them, but he said he would use them. It's just that they were manipulating his words and saying that he should be forced to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nathaniel?
I agree that you shouldn't be forced. I pretty much disagree with what you and Martin have been saying. Not just to completely piggyback. I'm feeling like kind of dumb, but I really, like you said, everything I've been thinking.
I know this is basically what Dylan and I just talk about all day.
It's not like I have much to say.
Yeah. This is what Dylan and I talk about like a lot too. So I basically just said his opinion and my opinion, which are the same thing on this issue. So what I said goes for Dylan. Okay,
so let's hear what Nathaniel has to say.
I agree with, like, I have the same opinion as you, Neil, and Dylan and Martin.
Oh, Jesus.
Like, and yeah. like that's basically my opinion about it. But to be honest, like, well, the reason why I'm not really talking that much is that like I'm trying to form my own opinions, and I'm a Christian, so I'm trying to base my opinions around my faith. So I'm like reading texts that we have and just trying to form my own opinion about it from what I've experienced and from what my from what the Bible says. So like that's what I'm trying to do. And I haven't really formed an opinion about transgenders yet. Like I know I'm getting to forming an opinion about gay people. Like I'm pretty sure I have an opinion about that that's based around my faith. But yeah, that's not why I'm talking as much. Like I'm trying to form an opinion, like not trying to agree with everyone, which is my personality is I want to make people happy, like around me. I want to be I'm kind to people, and I want to make them feel comfortable, and I don't want to be mean to them. I want to make them feel happy. Now, and some of the times I say something, but then I don't necessarily agree with it afterwards. So I'm just trying to form my own opinions. So that's why I'm not talking as much. I'm trying to listen from input of other people.
I see.
Okay.
Well,
Yes, so trying to remain independent whilst you agree with us to some extent and trying to form your own opinion without piggybacking off of us.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move on to the game thing.
Yes. So, all right. So this is pretty interesting. I found this out over my vacation. All right. So I hope everyone knows the game Uno. It's by the game makers Mattel. So Mattel is to release an Uno sequel called Dos with new rules and gameplay. All right. Now, this is an article by Ariel Scotty on February 13th. And this is, all right, I'm just going to read this. This is what I did for the cancer cure article that we talked about last time. What comes after Uno is Dos. The classic card game has been virtually unchanged since its inception in 1971. But with the launch of Dos comes a new objective and several new rules for Uno's sequel. There are a few key differences in the follow-up to Uno, the most obvious being how you win. Points are added up and cards are expelled from a player's hand, but this time around, a player must be holding 2 cards to call out Dos and secure a victory for any given round. That's kind of what we expected.
Is that it?
Like, yeah. Then
That's
in
all
the
we have
spin-off...
so far. Okay, let's just be clear here. This is just a corporate cash grab. Some executives at Mattel just wanted to get like, well, we have no more ideas. Hey, what comes after Uno? Dos. The sheeple that we sell this stuff to will definitely take that. Like, I'm saying this, but I'm going to buy it and play it anyways.
Yeah, just see how it works. But like,
yeah, I'm probably gonna buy it and play it anyways, regardless of. That's probably like their marketing strategy. Here's the thing: everyone's gonna hate this, but everyone's gonna buy it to hate on it.
Yeah.
I always thought it was quite funny. I spend a good amount of time in a game shop, like they sell board games.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's also where they play this card game Magic. I like quite a bit, and they have tournaments on Fridays. And it's funny because a big part of their business is board games, and they have no Mattel games in the entire store. And it's always kind of funny because a lot of people there are like gamers, not like video gamers, but people that like playing board games and stuff and card games. All of them agree that Monopoly is probably one of the worst games ever created.
Whoa, really?
Playing with the game of life. Yeah, Monopoly, like as far as games go, suck. I mean, it takes forever to play.
It does.
There's one strategy you can just abuse.
Buy everything.
That wins you the game essentially every time. That's why there's no.
What is it? What's the strategy, Dylan? Is it buy everything?
Make money.
I forget what it is. It's like you have to buy things 3 in a row, and then I forget the exact.
It takes forever. Like I've played with my family, and it takes us several hours to like even make it far enough to start building houses.
Mhm.
We spent we played a Monopoly game for a month. Ended up being, it was
No,
insane.
that was, you mean at school?
No. Yeah. At
Remember
home.
that? I know at school we had played a game of Risk that had lasted a month.
Oh my god.
Risk
Oh,
takes
forever.
forever to set up. Like,
It does take quite a bit to set up.
Yeah.
And then it came down, it was about a month, and me and someone else were left. It was only 2 people. I had 100 people on Australia. Or more. Like, I had a ridiculous amount of people on Australia. And no one else, they couldn't really kill me. But for some reason, I'd been getting a bunch of people every time.
I also, but there is an event like with modern day technology, like there's Tabletop Simulator and like video game versions of Monopoly and Risk. Like that just makes it a whole lot faster.
Mhm.
And
Tabletop Simulator is pretty cool.
What is it?
Tabletop Simulator.
They have Uno on there, but though they have a weird rule where 7s and 0s can change people's hands. It's really weird. And yeah.
You mean for Uno?
Well, yeah, wait, is that a normal rule? I've never heard
Yeah,
of
yes, that is a normal rule.
That's
What?
a normal rule? Okay.
That rule. What's the rule?
Okay, so for a 7, if you put down a 7, you can switch your hand with anyone
No,
else.
With a 7, everyone switches hands.
Isn't that a trade hands
That
card?
was in the Tabletop Simulator, it's 0 that does that.
Oh.
Isn't it trade hands that does that? Isn't trade hands a card?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I play Uno Attack, which is like, it's a machine and you press a button and it may spit out 1 card, no cards, or a billion. It's completely random.
Wow.
So it's really fun when a bunch of times when you have to take a card, you just hit the button, nothing comes out, and then one person hits the button once and like a bunch of cards come spouting out and it fills your entire hand.
Seems like a really dumb way of playing.
Like have you heard, like,
random?
Neil, you were talking about DOS being a cash grab, but like, have you seen all the other versions of Uno? Like
Uno, yeah. I
Uno
tell you, Uno
Custom
Attack is
and
another cash
Uno Dare. Like, talk about a cash grab.
Cars Uno. I have a Cars Uno version of Uno with cars, like the movie.
Oh.
And
So-
you know the yogurt? Like what is it with yogurt and cartoons being on them? I feel like it's only.
Oh yeah.
It's
I don't
only
know.
yogurt. Specifically yogurt. Like
I guess
that's-
somehow with Superman on a yogurt thing, it just automatically makes it, oh, Superman likes it, but you just see a picture of Superman.
When I first saw that, I wanted to get that so bad, and I realized it tastes exactly the same. I was just like, what the frick is the point? So,
I hate yogurt with a passion.
well, Dylan is a weak, gross vegan, actually, so.
Neil, you also hate yogurt.
What'd you say?
You also hate yogurt.
I'm not a vegan, though.
Actually, guys, I think I might have to go just a little bit early.
I am a vegan.
All right. Do we want to end? Like, hold on. Let me just end with this. Okay. So for any of you out there who wants to play DOS, and I really want to play DOS, like just check it out. Okay. So Target stores called first dibs on DOS and will begin selling the game for $5.99 on March 4th. Today's March 5th. So
let's play DOS.
So you can go and buy it now at Target. And Mashable reported, and it will be available at other retailers in August. So go out to Target, and if you want, buy DOS. It's only $6.
Okay. DOS is probably going to be best game of 2017.
Woo.
It's 2018.
I don't even know what year it is anymore. They just like go up every time.
Oh, wow. Dylan, it's hard to count.
All right.
Dylan can't count from 17 to 18.
Neil barely can count, honestly. It's incredible. His vegan brain can't comprehend one.
What?
All right.
All right.
I
So
have to go
should
now.
we end? Should we?
I think we should. I think this is the time.
Yeah.
It's only like 13 minutes till the show officially ends.
Yeah. So
Thank you for watching. This was actually a really relaxed episode, I think.
yeah.
This is a relaxing laid back episode. We talked about some interesting topics. We also were just really relaxed and laid back. This is part of the new attitude of season 2, though, I think.
Yeah.
It's less formal and debatey and more just relaxed and laid back. And that's not necessarily, things aren't necessarily going to change. We're not going to stay the same. This show is very fluent. If you like it, tell us. If you dislike it, tell us. And if you want us to talk about anything, tell us. And we're still going to talk about subjects of the world.
If you hate it, don't tell us.
If you hate it, don't tell us, leave.
If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
That's what my mommy told me, so I do that.
What about Nazis?
Or Nazis.
All right. Well, see you guys in 2 weeks.
See ya.
See ya. Goodbye.
Humanity has been on an epic journey of discovery, learning the truth about the world we live in. New discoveries about the true origins of humanity, ancient history, free energy, as well as the systematic corruption of world governments are now on the forefront of our daily reality. Is the world headed towards destruction based on control and power? Or is an opportunity now being presented to shift and uplift into a higher consciousness? My name is Mel V, co-founder and creative director of Conscious Consumer Network, an independent broadcast network that was launched on the 1st of January 2015. In the last 3 years, Conscious Consumer Network has broadcast over 2,800 shows in multiple languages, featuring guests from across the world, whilst creating media that is aimed at the creation of a free, fair, peaceful, just, sustainable world. Conscious Consumer Network provides full training and an interactive support network for all broadcasters, and we are always looking for inspiring and educational content.
Hi, this is Lainey Liberty.
And this is Miro Siegel.
In 2018, Conscious Consumer Network has expanded to multiple broadcast locations, increasing our availability and reach across the world, remaining on the cutting edge of independent media. If we wish to create a better world, we must first create better media, geared towards real education instead of indoctrination.
You guys really are what changing the world is going to be about. It's educating kids at a grassroots level.
Having become a pillar of stability in the turbulent world of independent media, we have even more going on in 2018. Conscious Consumer Network is a publicly funded network, and we rely on all of you to keep us on the air. Show your support for independent media by donating to our 2018 Network Support Fund. Dare to seek a better world. Support independent media.